Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at Java interfaces. An interface in a very general terms is an agreement. You know, it's a protocol. It's an agreement. It describes an agreement between components. For example, there is an interface. It decides on what methods this component should implement, and the interface just describes these components, describes the agreement, right? Which is what methods the whoever is going to implement the interface is going to need to implement to be abiding by this agreement or this interface. So an interface, to create an interface is pretty straightforward. You right click, new, and let's say I would like to create a Java class, and it will ask me what do you want to create. I want to create an interface. Here it is. You see class interface, and I'm going to call it, for example, let's say we call it the user interface. User interface. You know, it doesn't have to be called that way, but just something that we can understand. You can see here there is an I here indicated it's an interface. Now let's go back to the user class, and you see the user has a name, has a name, has a name, and so on. So let's say instead of having a name, like I'll delete this. I don't need the student class for this example, so I'll go here and delete the student class. I'll delete the student class. Now, okay, the user has a name, so let's make it a little bit more interesting. So basically, let's say he has a first name, and he has a last name, L name, right? And I'll remove the constructor, create another constructor, remove the toString, I'll remove all of that stuff, right? And I'll create the first name and last name. And let's say code override methods, and I'll call it, code generate, and I will generate a constructor that has all of them, right? Okay, so that basically becomes this now, okay. So now, what if I want to create, or maybe instead of calling it user interface, I'll rename it. So to rename, the nice thing about it is that you say refactor rename, right? And then I could name it as, let's say, I'll call it the name interface, right? So these are like an interface. Whoever implements it is something related to manipulation. So basically, for example, I could say string, right? Something that will return a string, and get full name, right? Get the full name. Right, so basically you are declaring a method, right, that is going to get you the full name, right? So basically now another thing is that, for example, you could say string get full name uppercase, for example, something like that. So basically, or get full name lowercase. So here it is, get full name lowercase, right? Lowercase, something like that. And you can also add parameters and so on. So basically, that these are just methods that are described by the interface, right? So let's say the user wants to be able to have the name interface. All what the user needs to do is say implements the name interface. Okay, now it's not going to be happy because you are promising to implement the name interface, as the user class is promising to implement this user interface, the name interface. However, it did not, right? Because to implement it, you need to implement these three methods, right? So basically, we hover over, you see this bulb, you click on it, and you say implement the methods. You press enter, and basically here you go. It created the three methods for you, and these three methods are related to the name interface, right? So basically, get the full name. I could say, for example, return if name plus space, and then maybe L name, right? Something like that. You know, that becomes the first name and so on. The same story here. I could do uppercase and so on, and to uppercase and to lowercase. I could say string NAME equals this, right? And then I could say NAME to uppercase, and the same story with the one which is to lowercase. I could do the same thing, and I could do to lowercase, or I could do it in one line by just calling get full name and then doing the uppercase on it. So I could say get full name to uppercase. You know, I can do this way also, right? And same story here. And here we go. So basically, I'm able to get lowercase, uppercase, and basically I created these methods that are that were described by the interface but implemented by the class. So now if I go here, I can just create a new user. Let's say just to test, I'll say user equal new user, and basically they have an age, and then there are a couple of strings that show up, and there's no, okay, there's a couple of names. Okay, so let's say we call him Bob Smith, and basically now you can go and call the user. You could say s out user dot get full name. So this is one, and you can do the other ones, which is get uppercase and get lowercase. So basically this is just an example. It's an interface that describes some methods, and then you could see here that the methods are implemented by the class, you know, are implemented by the class. And of course all the examples I have, they don't have any parameters. You can have ones that have parameters. For example, I could say get full name separated by, okay, full name, and I could say for example with, okay, and then you can pass it a string, for example, and in that string we could say, for example, is going to have a string, right? And here we go, semicolon. So basically you are going to pass the string, and let's give it a name. Let's, for example, whatever you're going to separate it with, right? And now it's not happy. Why it's not happy? Because if you go to the user class now is not consistent with this interface. So you implement the method, and here is the method, and here it is. It creates the method for you. And basically what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to return this. So basically I'm going to return this, and then instead of this I will say separator. So that's the separator between the first and last name, right? So I can also call the method again. I could say sout, same story, sout user.get full name with separator, and then the separator, let's say I will put a dash, just to show you that there is a difference, right? And run it, and here we go, there is one with a dash. So it's very straightforward. The interface describes some methods, and the class implements these methods. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.